Hey guys, what's up? This is Michael. Today we're going to be diving into a behind the scenes on how I mix Cam Steady's new track, Plasma. Let's dive in. So for those that don't know, I met Cam back in college, back when we went to USC together. I do a lot of his mixing for his main artist project right now. First off, you can see at the very top here, this is where the instrumental is. I'm going to play it just by itself so you can take a listen. Shout out to the boys Zeppelin as well as Ziller for sending the track in. We got the stems already and set. So with them, usually like I'll still do another mix. You can tell like when I'm going down this project file, I did do some remixing of it because of how Cam's vocal was sounding, and we just wanted to make it a little bit cleaner if possible. So we can go into the drums right here. I am using a drum bus. This is kind of an underrated plugin I've been using more from Ableton. It allows you to get like a better, crispier drum sound and kind of like a nice glue compressor just for drums. So if we play it, just the drums with it on, now let's play it without. With it on again. You can tell the transient amount is really what's doing most of the heavy lifting on this. It gives the kick as well as the snare just a little bit more punch. You can see we're not really using 100% of the effect. We're using like 30% dry and wet. If I crank it all the way and play it, it's almost too much. Like we don't really need that. We're already getting a big boost from the transients. So I think we're just doing some high passing here to just make sure that we're removing a lot of the excess fluff underneath that's not really necessary for the hi-hats and the percussion. Let's go into the synths now. So there's 4 different synths on this track. We're pretty much just taming all of them. So this one, we're kind of shelving off some of the highs because it's a lower instrument anyways. We have this weird siren synth right here that's getting played. Pretty much doing the same thing. Cutting out some of the mids, cutting out some of the highs, and then we have a final lead for verse 2, which sounds like this. And this one we actually went back in and turned up because Cam had a request on making sure it was a little bit louder because the track is pretty empty. And then we finally have this super saw. It's taking up a lot of space in the track, so we just want to make sure that it was loud enough to support his vocal while not getting in the way of everything else that would be important for this song. Finally, you have the bass line. This actually has sidechain compression already baked in. You can hear without it playing. You can see it's already ducking, which is fine. I don't really care. We didn't really change any of the drums around anyways. We just made some small cuts and some beat chops and just some stuff to restructure the track was pretty much all we did. So we didn't really have to go back in and fix any of that. Finally, as a respace doubled up with that 808, which sounds like this. Kind of like a brighter, more stereo-y bass. Used as more of like a textured thing, and both of them in context sound like this. But that's pretty much the beat. There is a vocal chain right here that's just doing some random effects. That's just, you can't really hear. They're more of like a texture ambient moment that we have in there. So an Easter egg for any of the Cam Steady fans, but we actually tried throwing in the Toxicroak cry from Pokemon. We tried using that instead of the smoke laugh, which is this. So in context with the Toxicroak laugh. Could have been cool, you know. But we ended up deciding to scratch it because the laughing I think fits a little bit better. It's a little more reverbed out, kind of fits better in the soundscape and everything. So, but that's pretty much the track. Like it's a very basic, easy to listen to track. It's not really too complicated because the vocal work is a little bit crazy. So we're gonna dive into this a little bit. I've been mixing Cam's stuff I think since 2021, I believe, when he switched to his more aggressive artist project. This is usually what the sessions will always look like. It's always going to be a convoluted rainbow of different vocals and effects because of the way he works and kind of what he wants per section of the track and how we've structured his vocal processing. So we're actually going to dive in. We're going to start with the lead first, and then I'm going to kind of go down the chain and then explain kind of the rationale. But I'm going to turn everything off for this lead, and you'll tell, like, you'll be like, oh, wow, there's really nothing there. It sounds like it's just all the effects are doing most of the work, which is true. That's usually what it comes down to. With this vocal tone, we try to push for like a very aggressive-y kind of amped sound. It lets it push through the mix a little bit easier, and it gives it a more presence in the voice without having to rely on doubles or anything like that. This is his lead vocal. I'm going to turn everything off. I think the group chain is just side chaining, so we'll leave that on, but everything on the lead is muted. Let's play verse 2.
You heard the allegory, that was only half the story. I'll dispatch the masses of the bashes that can stand before me. This is the matrimony, the celebration of my weapon's resurrection, and the uncontested masses thrown in out.
Cool. So you can tell there's a lot of punching in. We ended up doing 2 to 3 days of re-recording. He's in LA, but we don't record in the same session. He'll just send over files and we kind of workshop them. But you can see every place where there's a cut, it was either a re-record or there's a moment where I just needed to nudge parts of the vocal. With his stuff, he's pretty much on time, like 90% of the time. It's just this final 10% of getting it a little bit cleaner so that we're not having to have like weird sections. Like right here, it's like he's really nailing it and everything feels good. But then over towards the end, we were kind of having an issue with the pre-chorus going into the chorus. Some of the timing was a little bit off and we were just trying to figure out the best way to do that. So pretty much we'll just reuse chains I've made for him in the past. This one we used for Graveyard Shift, which I'll play right now on the screen if I'm editing this video. And we'll kind of walk through the chain. So the basic of it is a glue compressor, a EQ8, and then we have an audio effect rack, which is running 2 different effects. One is just doing dry, which is the CLA vocal. It sounds like this.
You heard the allegory, that was only half a story. I'll dispatch the masses of the bashes that can stand before me.
It's just doing like a pretty aggressive vocal compression. And then we have a wet, which is doing camel crushing. So this is like...
You heard the allegory, that was
really
only half a
crushed,
story. I'll
right?
dispatch the masses of the bashes that can stand.
And it's EQing that afterwards because we don't want any of this garbage underneath, taming up some of the highs, but it's really just there for grit. And if we play both together,
you heard the allegory, that was only half a story. I'll dispatch the masses of the bashes that can stand before me.
It just gives us the ability to make it sound like he's rapping twice. So it gives us a nice kind of wider vocal effect, kind of mimicking like a doubler, but a little bit more organic and sounds a little bit realer. Camel Crusher is great. They don't actually have support anymore for the plugin, so it is a dark window. We pretty much just go through here on the bottom right section to dial it in. I pretty much just reuse this Annihilate preset and then just pull it back a little bit because we don't need 100% of that all the time. Finally, have Soothe 2 on his voice.
You heard the allegory.
Being pretty aggressive with how much cleanup it's doing. And that's really just to tame some of the brightness and kind of the harsh frequencies we're getting from that amp plugin as well as from the CLA vocal. And then finally, we have another EQ at the end.
You heard the allegory, that
which is cutting a lot. You can tell like we're pretty much shaving off anything below 150 hertz. Like it's gone. And the reason why we do that is because the sub and the bass in most of his tracks takes up a lot of room. I would rather have the mix a little bit muddier on the beat side versus on the vocal side because it just will sound a little bit cleaner. We can also just mono the bass and do stuff like that. And then finally, this is just everything in context. So this is without the vocal chain on.
You heard the allegory, that was only half a story.
And this is with the vocal chain on.
You heard the allegory, that was only half a story. I'll dispatch the masses of the bashes that can stand before me. This is the
cool. So just a lot more aggressive, a lot louder, and it gives it that kind of Cam Steady amped effect, which is really cool. What I like to do with his vocals, and this is pretty much goes for most mixing projects that I'll do, is I'll always go back through and retime all of the lead vocals first. And then what I'll do is I'll bounce out a file, like a WAV file of just the lead soloed, and then I'll use that as my template guide to then realign all the doubles and harmonies that come later. The reason why I do this is because it's really a pain to have to adjust everything every single time. I'd rather get it really good once, and then I can kind of not think as hard when I'm realigning the doubles and the harmonies because the lead has already been done. Like the work has been done, the time and effort has been spent. I think it's the best workflow wise because it saves you time and it allows me to, if I retime the lead, I don't really need to second guess myself, right? If I'm playing with the metronome and retiming the vocal, I can just copy and paste this down and use this as a visual cue to tell where things need to sit in the doubles. And then if I want to double check it, I'll just play the whole track through and then, make some adjustments here and there. But it's easier to work like that versus to like do every vocal individually. It just does, I don't think it's worth your time. You're better off just saving it and trying to condense the work down as much as possible. The reason why I like running his effects all on one chain is because some of the vocals have some pre-recording done, meaning that there are overlapped with some of the other takes. So because of that, we like to do them on a separate chain if possible. This is an Adlib for some reason. I don't know why it's in the lead group, but this is playing with verse 1.
Now let me state the truth. I know you've seen the plasma on the screen, about to break the news.
You can tell it's fine because it's not overdoing the glue compressor down here, so it's not really pumping it too much. But if I was to do this mix again, I would definitely throw that in a separate group and process it differently because this glue compressor is summing everything in this lead chain, so all these groups together. So anything that does come in randomly, it is processing it the exact same way. So we might want to avoid that for the future, but it sounded fine in the mix, so that's why we left it. And you'll notice that every track has a utility on it. The reason why I do this is because when I am doing volume automation, for example, if we're recording vocals on 2 different days and there's one vocal that is arguably significantly louder than the other one, this is a quick, easy way to fix that versus, just selecting the entire clip and then raising all the volume. This is just an easy way to go back in afterwards and just make some small changes. I also use it as a way to remove noise. So you can see right here.
Sing in your songs, and if you think you'll get it,
remove that, right?
sing in your songs, and if you think
There's like a weird psst sound, we kind of use that utility to remove it a little bit before it hits the compressor. That way it sounds a little bit more cohesive and not as bright. Use it kind of as a cleanup tool. I like using it on every single track because it saves time. And I'd rather do that so I can use the, kind of track wide volume meter right here as the global one to adjust the entire signal versus, just a section of it. And then finally, we have this outro vocal. I'm going to play without any effects. This is kind of the chorus that we ended up chopping. Sounds like this without anything on it.
Plasma. I feel the voltage in my veins like it was plasma. I feel the voltage in my veins like plasma. It feel like everybody blind. The world is black and white, that I'm the one to draw the line. Plasma.
Cool. And this is with the radio effect on, which sounds like this.
Plasma. I feel the voltage in my veins like it was.
Which is literally just overdrive, OTT, and just the stock phone filter on Pro Q3. And then finally, we have the lead vocal chain, which is just making everything loud and grittier. And this is it in context. And the reason why we have those chops is it just gives the post-chorus kind of a cool, different vibe. We ended up using Shaper Box to get these, which is just resampling the lead vocal, but I just selected some few chops and used them as a way to kind of transition between the sections. We do a little bit of pitch bending just to make sure it's like a little bit even wonkier. We do kind of want that like, oh, it's like a real record kind of sound, right? Yeah, right here is a good one. So you can see the clip, transition, we're starting it low, we're starting it and immediately dips down. Just adds a cool record stopping effect. It's an easier way to do that. So the hook actually was a pain in the ass. We spent so long trying to get it in a good spot because of the way we're processing it, right? So if we go to the actual hook, this is what it sounds like.
And I'm a mad one. Let me take your breath away, you get an asthma. I keep the focus on the aim when I'm a blast them. It feel like everybody blind. If the world is black and white, then I'm the one to draw the line. You never had one.
You can see there's a lot of chops. Like there's a lot of moments where I'm just like nudging things around and fading them to just get it a little bit more locked into the groove. So that lead is actually getting doubled with this abomination of another vocal playing, which we'll play right now with all the effects on.
And I'm a mad one.
Super aggressive, very loud. So I'm going to go through all the effects. I'm going to turn off everything for now, as you can see. But this is the vocal with nothing on it.
And I'm a mad one.
Very empty. Nothing's happening there. Let's play it with the little plates.
And I'm a mad one.
Some more reverb. Let's do it with New Distort, which is a really dope plugin. You guys should check it out. It's honestly sick. Like you can get some crazy sounds from it. And this is with it on.
And I'm a mad one.
And that's doing arguably 90% of the work. Next, we have a Stereo 1, which is just widening the sound a little bit.
Mad one.
And then we have an Q3, what am I saying? Which is removing all the mids. Because we're just going for that like stereo wide, bigger vocal. We don't really care about anything else that's there. And then finally, you have Kickstart just to add a little bit more bounce. Maybe the reason why we have that is because we're processing the reverb directly on that vocal as well as sending it to another chain. So if we listen and we mute the send, it's still pretty reverbed out. But now with this too, as well, it's really drenched, right? And in context with both, if we play it, it's just a subtle thing.
One to draw the line, you never had one. Eat a bitch, just ain't a blazing to the magma. I feel the voltage in my veins like it was plasma. Cause everything I want is mine. If the world is black and white, then I'm the one to draw the line.
So it's just another vocal element that adds a little bit more depth to that hook. It helps transition just a little bit better too. We're actually using this technique a little bit later in verse 1. I think just verse 1, yeah. So let's go back here and check what we did. This is going to be verse by itself.
And it's not blessed with the hindsight to see historically oppressed, get the blind eye.
So this is with the Team Plasma. So it's the exact same thing, but we're just pitching these down. I think these are pitched down. This is 6 semitones. This is 6. That is 5 for some reason. 5 and then 5. So with Cam's vocals, I don't really like spending the time to tune them because 90% of the time, like they don't need to be in key. It's hip hop. Like it's not supposed to be a melodic moment. So because of that, we like to just manually do it. So I'll literally just sit there with a tuner and just like try to nudge the notes enough where they sound good in context. And then I'm good to go. I don't really like going on Melodyne. It's not worth spending the extra like 3 to 4 minutes to record the audio, tune it, and then rebounce it. You can get it pretty close because he's holding one pitch the entire time. Next thing we got is the doubles. So this is the doubles. These are doing a lot of the work in the track, and we're going to the chain here. So I'm going to turn off the chain right now. This is going to be the doubles dry.
Let me take your breath away, you get an asthma.
And this is with the chain with everything on.
Let me take your breath away, you get an asthma.
Cool. So for this double chain, we're actually using different set of plugins. So we're going to pull them off and go one by one. But first one we got is Devil Lock. Devil Lock is a really cool distortion plugin by Soundtoys. Let's play right now.
Bad one. Let me take your breath away.
It's adding like a little bit of filtering, a little bit more grittiness, and then we add a Pro Q3,
Bad one. Let me
which
take
is killing any sort of bass that's created by the Devil Lock and trying to, take out some of these resonant frequencies that are going to cause issues later on. After that, we have a decapitator, which is
Bad one. Bad one. Let me take
adding even more low mids. And then finally, we have Fresh Air, which is adding brightness.
Bad one. Let me take your breath away. You getting asthma. I keep the
So what I like to do with the doubles is figure out what the lead vocal doesn't have, and we try to force it onto the doubles to support it. In context, like with the doubles, we're just going to play the lead by itself. I'm going to mute the doubles just so you can see what it sounds like without any support.
Bad one. Let me take your breath away. You getting asthma. I keep the focus on the aim when I'm a blaster.
Right? It sounds a little thin because we needed space for that bass, but now with the doubles,
Bad one. Let me take your breath away. You getting asthma. I keep the focus on the aim when I'm a blaster. It feel like everybody blind. If the world is black and white, then I'm the one that draw the line. You never had one.
there's a little bit more cohesiveness. The track is more support now. That's the way I like training as doubles, because 90% of the time there needs to be some low mids somewhere in the vocal, because if you don't have them, then the vocal is going to sound way too thin. And then finally we have a crowd that's also playing with the doubles. I'm playing it right here to see what it sounds like.
Tell them after learning what the team about, they go sing the sermon loud. Every king deserves a crowd, and I'm on that one.
Same thing. So kind of just like a bigger distorted group.
That one. That one. That one.
But these are only emphasizing certain lines, right? You can see they're pretty much just playing the start of each bar. These are just used for emphasis, and they're more of like a crowd element. Just something to just add that extra bit of excitement for those choruses. It's not really doing a lot. If we go to verse 1, actually, similar to what we had for the other chorus where these are playing. Or where is it? This one. We had the exact same thing with these doubles. And you can tell the effect is coming in and out. We are actually automating in Rift. So Rift is a really cool plugin by Minimal Audio. It's actually insane. Like, I love just kind of scrolling through presets and resampling different things that it comes up with. But this is without anything on. So it's just basically adding an overdrive for the first bar, and then it's removing it. We can see right here with the automation. It's playing it, removing it, playing it, removing it, playing it, removing it. And this is with Rift on. So I'm going to turn it on now. It just makes it disgusting. Like ugh. It just really distorts the hell out of it. And the reason why we want that is because the vocals weren't sitting out enough, right? We have kind of this lower distorted layer in the lead group, but we don't have enough to help support everything else. So if we play it in context. And to be completely honest, it was crazier before. We had to dial it back. We ended up just leaving the effect on for a couple passes, and we're like, yeah, we probably don't need it like this the entire time because it's too aggressive. They stand out too much in the mix. I'd rather it just being like the first moment, and we automate in some reverb too, so you can tell like it's getting super drenched. Like these are dry. And the yell initial downbeat is going to be drenched. So because of that, it gives a nice stereo width and allows it to be a little bit punchier and interesting. That's what we did for the distorted layer, kind of like a crowd layer. This next thing we have is just an octave up by, or sorry, 3 semitones up, just add some texture. This is in verse 1, ad-libby vocal, to be honest.
We as man-to-man control of those that we can learn from.
This is without new distort on, so let's play it.
We as man-to-man control of those that we can learn from.
And this is with it on.
We as man-to-man control of those that we can learn from.
It adds like an interesting chorus slap delay kind of effect. And this is literally like, there's not even a preset. It's just spamming this dice button and just trying to get something that sounds cool and then just sticking with it. I do not recommend doing that though, because you do run the risk of just losing the sound permanently if your session crashes. If it's cool, just save it as a preset. This is just like a subtle thing. We ended up doing another one in verse 2.
Now I'm in my bag and scoring.
And this in context, let's play it.
It's
just an extra thing. Like, it's not really doing a ton of work. It's just that extra bit of like, ooh, that's, that's kind of interesting. Verse 1 actually had another low down octave vocal that sounded like this.
This is not desertion or cutting family ties.
And then in context,
All of those that we can learn from. This is not desertion or cutting family ties.
we really need it though because it's a little too loud. So we ended up muting it for this track because it's not necessary. And then finally, we have some other groups down here that are, I think we muted them on purpose.
Now let me state the truth. I know you seen the plasma on
Yeah,
the screen.
these are just other doubles. So this is essentially a copy of this group. This is just another chain. Like, these are all running through the same group. I actually have no idea why I did this, to be completely honest. Like, these should just be up here because It's all in one group. Anyways, these are the doubles for the verses. So I think that's why they're separated. And you can tell it's a shit show for these. Like if we go and really scroll in, like you can tell there's a lot of cutting. Like essentially what I do is I'll take the lead, like I mentioned, chop it, get it in time, and then I'll manually go through and retime everything else. Because I personally just think it sounds better versus warping. Warping does run the risk of introducing some weird artifacts, and I don't have vocal line. So if you have vocal line, you want to help a homie out. So that's kind of the main reason why I like doing it like this. You can warp the vocal, like if it was like singing stuff, like you can warp it. I do think it's just better to have them just record another take and get something that sounds similar to the lead, and using that as chopping it and just nudging it is the best way to work. With his stuff in particular, like I think people might think there's not a lot of work that goes into the post production, but with his stuff, like it does require that because it doesn't hit as hard if the vocals are not in time and in tempo for the entire point. Like if we play this whole section right here, if I mute the beat, right, there's 1, 2, 5, 7 different vocals that are playing right here. It's like if that sounded off, it's gonna sound like shit. Like so if we just nudge these out, right, and like we don't realign it, I'm just gonna force these, do this right here and just see. It's gonna sound awful, like I already know. Like there's a couple parts where the vocals just aren't where they're supposed to be. And the main reason why these are different colors is because these are punch-in. So these are re-records he did on day 2 or day 3, I think. We have a reverse vocal right here too that I like throwing in. That's just a vocal that you throw a bunch of reverb on, flatten it, and then reverse it.
We can defeat it, they'll need a king that'll lead them.
Which sounds like this. That's it. That's all it does. But it's a great, if without it, it's maybe missing something. So if we played just a vocal.
We can defeat it, they'll need a king that'll lead them, and I'm a mad one.
And now with it in.
We can defeat it, they'll need a king that'll lead them, and I'm a mad one. Let me take
it just adds that extra bit of like, ooh. And then it's also sidechaining to the lead. So the minute that lead vocal comes in, it's dipping volume. It's not going to be present in there the entire time, fully as a transitional tool. But yeah, in terms of like a track like this is one of the more complicated ones I've done for him. He's had other tracks where it's a little bit simpler, where there's like a couple vocals and we're really just going back in and trying to fix and make the beat cooler or change it or whatever. But for this one, just because we wanted to make it something special, we did go back through and try to get it pretty crazy because we want to make sure that everything he's putting out is solid. So you don't really have to do a lot of the retiming. If you have plugins that'll do it for you, I personally just think it sounds better and it ends up coming out cleaner for his stuff, which I think is worth it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other questions about vocal mixing or any other track that I've done for Cam, write a comment below. More than happy to make a video diving into those sessions. We've done stuff back from like 2021, so there's a bunch of older tracks we can kind of go through and kind of talk about that vocal processing and vocal editing. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.